Let's begin by telling you that 30 passengers have died in a ferry auto crash in Ondo State's Odigbo local council area. The accident happened on Saturday when two commercial buses collided head-on and burst into flames at the Onipetesi axis along the Ore-Lagos Expressway. Out of 32 passengers, 28 were burnt beyond recognition, while two others who survived the initial crash later died from their injuries. Two passengers remain in critical condition. The Ondo State FRSC Sector Commander, Samuel Ibitoye, confirmed that excessive speeding and driving against traffic caused the crash. He urged drivers to maintain their vehicles, avoid reckless driving, and called on passengers to speak out against unsafe driving practices. The Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has given President Bola Tinubu a 7-day deadline to address allegations of corruption in Nigeria's oil sector. SERAP demands an investigation into the disappearance of over 26 billion naira from the Petroleum Technology Development Fund and the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources in 2021. The group has called on the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, and anti-corruption agencies to take immediate action. According to SERAP, if no response is received within the specified time frame, SERAP warns that we will pursue legal action to ensure accountability. The revelations from an Auditor General's report suggest remarkable financial mismanagement and violations of national laws. And staying with the oil sector, Dangote Petroleum Resources refinery has reduced the ex-depot price of premium motor spirits (PMS), commonly known as petrol, from 950 naira to 890 naira with immediate effect. In a statement, the company said the price adjustment is in response to favorable developments in the global energy sector and a remarkable decline in international crude oil prices. The group chief branding and communication officer, Anthony Chiejina, says this latest move follows a similar decision made 19th January when a price increase was implemented due to rising crude oil costs. The statement also noted the price reduction would significantly lower the cost of petrol across the country, generating a positive ripple effect throughout the broader economy. The refinery also called on marketers across the country to ensure that the benefits of the reduced prices are passed on to the Nigerian public. Meanwhile, the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, has called on fuel marketers to reduce the pump price of premium motor spirits (PMS) following a drop in the ex-depot price from 950 naira to 890 naira per litre at Dangote Refinery. And speaking on this, Petron National President Bile Gelezari welcomed the price cut but emphasized the need for a gradual transition in retail pricing. He explained that many filling stations still have stock purchased at a previous higher rate, making an immediate price adjustment difficult. However, he urged marketers to reflect the price change on new stock purchased from today. Petron reaffirmed its commitment to fair pricing and sustainability in downstream petroleum sector, pledging to work closely with Dangote Refinery and other stakeholders to ensure consumer benefits. And for more on this, we're joined by Olushola Bello, who is a publisher and at Business Standards. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me on the news.
Good afternoon.
All right. So how do you think this reduction in ex-depot price translates to actual pump prices for consumers at filling stations across the country?
Yeah, the reduction is for the benefit of Nigerians, and it's good for Nigerians, or it's good for the consumers, because I mean it will save them some money, and that is just a simple mechanism of demand and supply. And Dangote just supply. I mean, it just reacting to the economic fundamentals within the oil and gas. I mean, within the oil and gas industry. If the price comes down, it means the price at international, the price of crude oil at the international market has also been reduced, and so they will have no choice but to also follow suit. That is what they call price modulation.
Then how about, the market itself when it comes to competition? Do you see this move in any way by Dangote refinery impacting competition in the Nigerian petroleum markets, sector? Do you think other oil marketers may follow suit?
That is the beauty of the regulation. It engenders competition between between other stakeholders. I'm sure NNPC will probably come a little bit lower than what Dangote is putting up because it has more resources than Dangote, and it will want more patronage from customers and consumers. So that is the beauty of competition. So when now the competition is fully, the regulation is fully in place and competition in action, it is the consumers that benefit from such exercise.
Now, beyond Dangote, ensuring competition in the market and fair prices for consumers, what role can governments play in ensuring benefits of reduced ex-depot prices are passed on to consumers?
No, the role the government can play is just to ensure that at least there is nobody who is taking undue advantage of the other. That is the proper regulation. The authority should be watchful and see that at least everybody is adhering to the basic principles of economics as it comes to supply and demand. If the price at the general market comes down, it is expected that also the producers in Nigeria should also come down, should also reduce their price, and that is exactly what is happening. At the international market, the price of crude oil has been ranging from between $76 to 81, and $76 to 81 and back to 75. As at Friday, it was 75 or $67. So that presupposes that at least this price there has to be a differential between when the price was $81 and when it has come to $75.
Do you think this price reduction can be short-lived? And why do I say so? I'm looking at factors that could lead to increases in prices in the future, such as oil prices globally, exchange rates, and fluctuations in the market. How sustainable indeed is this reduction in price for the ex-depot?
Well, you cannot even determine. You can only determine 30% of the prices of what will influence the price of crude oil internationally. So if there's a spark somewhere, maybe in Iraq or in Iran and all this, and they decide to squeeze them and they are not able to produce enough, the price will spark. But if, like Trump is now saying, that he's going to open up the world and he's going to open up the fields, if he's able to do it and do that enough, the price will still come lower because there will be more fuel in the market. That is the implication of the policy, the executive bills that President Trump decided to turn out. So the issue of sustainability, you can't say it can be sustained because when you don't know what could spark up the price, and you cannot say exactly what kind of policy that will be in place that will keep the price low for a very long time.
Indeed, thank you so much for your insight on the news. Olushola Bello, publisher with Business Standards. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you.
The Adamawa State chapter of the Independent Petroleum Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, has warned of potential industrial showdown with the Nigerian Customs Service following the recent seizure and auctioning of petroleum products in the state. And this was confirmed by IPMAN, threatening to halt operations completely, protesting what it describes as unjustified confiscation of legally sourced fuel, a move it says is detrimental to economic stability in the region. Last Thursday, customs officials says 199,495 liters of premium motor spirits (PMS), valued at 199 naira.5 million, and later auctioned the fuel at a subsidized rate of 630 naira per liter at select filling stations, while 25-liter jerry cans were sold for 10,000 naira each. Reacting to this, Oil marketers in Adamawa State insist that the confiscated fuel was not smuggled, stressing that it was legitimately acquired and in full compliance with industry regulations. And let's tell you also that the Private Telecommunications and Communications Senior Staff Association of Nigeria has rejected the planned nationwide protest by the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) over the recently approved 50% increase in telecom tariff. The body, in a letter addressed to the NLC leadership, argued that the tariff hike, though painful, is necessary to prevent the imminent collapse of the sector. The NLC had earlier rejected the tariff increase, describing it as additional burden on Nigerians already grappling with the rising cost of living. The Labour Union directed its affiliate unions to mobilize members for a protest scheduled for February 4th, 2025. However, the group, which represents workers in the telecom sector, expressed disappointment that the NLC took the decision without consulting it. Away from that, Nigeria's Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Benjamin Kauru, has stated that the decision to abolish the death penalty ultimately rests with Nigerian citizens. And speaking in Abuja during a Qatar visit by a delegation from the Death Penalty Project, alongside officials from the British High Commission, Kauru emphasized the need for robust debate, collaboration, and stakeholder engagement on the issue. He highlighted that over 130 countries have abolished the death penalty in law practice, while Nigeria's current legal framework still allows capital punishment for crimes such as murder, armed robbery, and treason. Referencing death row statistics, Kauru underscored the pressing need for criminal justice reform, stressing that laws in Nigeria must evolve in line with societal needs and realities. Thank you for staying tuned. And now to graft matters, where the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ola Olukayode, says underdevelopment would be a thing of the past if every citizen sees corruption as a common enemy. Olukayode said Nigerians condemn corruption, yet rally behind corrupt leaders when they are being prosecuted. He said this while receiving officials of the Center of Crisis Communication, CCC, led by Chris Olukayode in Abuja. He said the EFCC will partner to raise public awareness on its activities and the importance of integrity among Nigerians. Workers of the Abia State Judiciary on Friday, January 31st, resumed work in compliance with the suspension of 3-week-old industrial action by the leadership of the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria. Now, the chairman and secretary of the union and the state on Thursday issued a press statement informing members to resume duties with immediate effect, having received all the outstanding salaries from the government. Our correspondent, Chiwe Ugele, was at the State High Court in Umuahia and now tells us more.
The entrance gate is open for the first time in 21 working days. Lawyers, magistrates, judges, support staff, and even those standing trial or seeking justice are all shut out of these premises the whole time. On Friday, being the first work day after the suspension of the industrial action by the Judiciary Staff Union in Abia State, life seems to have returned to the State High Court as the security personnel position themselves at their duty post with a handful of workers in sight. Cleaning and dusting of the courtrooms and offices are going on. Since the strike is over, judiciary staff have once again become too camera shy and so will not speak about their plight. However, the lawyers willingly share their predicament.
We have lost revenue, we have lost clientele, because most of us do not have any other thing to do apart from this job upon which is our calling. It has really affected us because it is from the courts. When we come to the court, we get the money we used to take care of our family.
They are happy that they can access the courts and have their cases handled expeditiously.
Now the court is sectional. I believe that there shall be a lot of improvement based on what was, on ground before now.
Many people have been languishing in the prison yards and the police cells. If you go to police cell now, everywhere is congested. So we believe that it will help in the speedy dispensation of justice.
People are in the cell. Police are now doing their own bit. Police can now sit as court. Police can now sit as the umpire, as the prosecutor, which defeats the terms of justice. But today we are elected, at least we are back to job.
Abia State government is able to avert a major industrial crisis with the fulfillment of the agreement with Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria in the state, but must avoid such friction with any labor union in the future. In Omaha for News Central, I am Chinwe Ugele.
An auto crisis rocking the People's Democratic Party, PDP, with the National Secretary of the PDP, Samuel Anyao, has petitioned security agencies alerting them of a threat to peace and security. In the petition dated February 1st, 2025, which was addressed to the Department of State Security, DSS, the National Security and Civil Defense Corps, and the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal, Anyao accused the party's governors of inviting chaos with the recognition of Sunday Udo Okoye as National Secretary. It stated that the police should be aware that an appeal has been filed in the Supreme Court against the quoted judgment. Furthermore, the Courts of Appeal sitting in Abuja granted an order on January 13, 2025, clearly directing both parties to maintain status quo antebellum pending the determination of the substantive application. And now to health matters, where residents of Plateau State will soon heave a sigh of relief from experiences of poor human and material resources in accessing quality health care in the state. Rising from a 5-day strategic planning retreat for the management of the Plateau State Specialist Hospital, both the head of service in the state, Stephen Pam, and Commissioner for Health, Dr. Cletus Shekuk, represented at the event, said residents of the state and beyond will begin to enjoy improved health care delivery in the state. Our correspondent, Chizobanyanwe, tells us more.
Established in 1933 as a colonial hospital to provide health care to the people of the state, the deplorable nature of the hospital began to raise concerns with the displeasure of patients during visitations. The government of Plateau State has charged the management of the hospital to bring on board measures that will complement the recently improved health facility with the state-of-the-art equipment recently installed.
Can we craft the future here? Can we make sure our tertiary healthcare institution, the Plateau State Specialist, takes the lead in crafting this future? With a plan and a blueprint for the future, I think we have started in the right direction. And by doing so, already you're creating a landmark.
The Chief Medical Director of the hospital assures that the essence of the 5-day retreat will yield desired fruits.
We are hoping that at the end of this retreat, we'll be able to have a document that will not just help us to move in the right direction, but will also make us globally competitive.
For these participants, nothing less of expertise is expected.
Since I started working, I've never had this kind of planning before, and it has actually given us an exposure on how the Plateau State Specialist Hospital can be moved to the future, to be prepared in terms of, healthcare delivery.
This workshop is very good because we are all working for the benefit of the patients who are at the center of care. And we want to give them all the care they need, not only for now, but the future.
With the plans that are being churned out and be modified in such a way that the hospital will be at a stage in the next 5 years at a point where globally things that are obtained here could be compared to those that are obtained in other parts of the world. Is really something that is inspiring.
With these assurances, residents of Plateau and beyond can only wait patiently when these words will materialize into actions that can be felt. In Jos, Plateau State for News Central, I am Chizoba Aniwi.
The Kauru Local Government Community Development Association Forum has urged the federal government to expedite action in establishing a military strike force to tackle escalating insecurity in the area. The appeal follows the kidnapping of 17 residents in Fadam-Rururam village, Kumana Chiefdom on Thursday. In a statement released on Saturday by Public Relations Officer Daniel Archie, the forum specifically called on the Kaduna State government and relevant authorities to set up a strike force in Kauru, and Kumana asks to complement the existing units in Damakusuwa and Chawai Chiefdom. Archie expressed deep concern over the frequent attacks and kidnappings, warning that the unabated activities of bandits were making life unbearable for residents, with daily abductions and violence instilling fear across the community. Away from that, governors from the Lake Chad Basin countries have agreed to enhance the operational capacity of the multinational joint task force and secure full control of the Lake Chad island to eliminate terrorist remnants and their hideouts. This resolution was reached at the 5th Lake Chad Governors Forum held in Maiduguri, Borno State, where leaders reaffirmed their commitment to regional security and stability. Umaru Kirawa throws more light.
For years, terrorist groups have used remote Lake Chad islands as strongholds, launching attacks across borders. Regional stakeholders resolved to call for military forces to secure the islands and clear remnants of the terrorists in the region at the 5th Lake Chad Governors Forum in Maiduguri.
While we are putting our efforts on the unfortunate incident and accident of Boko Haram, at the same time, we should not forget to continue with the efforts so that the Lake Chad can be recharged.
Officials stressed the importance of job creation, education, and social initiatives to prevent radicalization.
We should be careful by relying on international or partner support, because security situation is a self-help situation that do not waste time by anticipating a security and a logistic support from a third party.
We advocate, of course we provide technical support, we provide capacity building, but the most important is the role that is central of the governments.
This situation negatively impacts the sexual reproductive health services, family planning, maternal mortality, gender-based violence, and young and people situation.
Yobe State Governor Wemala Buni emerged as the chairman of the forum for the next 2 years.
With justice done to the theme of the meeting, rebuilding the Lake Chad Basin, consolidating gains, commitment to peace, cross-border cooperation, security and sustainable development for a resilient community. It is my hope, as the host governor, that we will internalize, domesticate, and act on the lessons and resolutions of this meeting to move forward from discussion to an all-inclusive action-packed implementation that ensures everyone is carried along for the growth and development of the region.
Enhance civil society organization and traditional institution engagement in regional stability, as well as updating and facilitating implementation of the territorial action plans formed part of resolution. Also, the forum agrees that the next meeting of the Governors Forum shall take place in 2026 in the Republic of Niger. In Maiduguri for News Central, Omar Kirawa.
Thank you for staying with us. The news continues in West Africa, where a landslide at a gold mine in southern Mali has claimed the lives of at least 12 people, with many others still missing, most of them women. Mali, one of Africa's leading gold producers, remains among the world's poorest nations. Fatal landslides are common at gold mining sites as authorities struggle to regulate the artisanal mining of the precious metal. The latest tragedy occurred in the village of Danga, where a landslide trapped a group of miners, the majority of whom were women.
danga duru kugu ya wolonfla tino de be baraka yoron nako unana anu ukumana am partenaire kumana ko ay yoro dama ay bara damne donc muso ya layni ka erifla di u fana mako utuma son mais an fana anyu wajibiya u ka son parce que yan sigilende do ma donc erifla o de be muso bolo 6h 8h ni problème bena ni cɛw do olu ye damamarala de olu b'a dɔn mais n'a bɛ na muso t'a ye muso t'a dɔn sinon ni dama bɛ na ni cɛ de do a b'a dɔn a fɛn dɔ bɛ ka na quoi an b'a fɛngɛ mais musow t'o dɔn parce que olu tɛ jigin dama kɔnɔ ni pin ninnu n'a ɲɔgɔnna tɛ muso tɛ jigin dama kɔnɔ.
In the east of the continent, at least 56 people have been killed rather, in artillery shelling and airstrikes across Greater Khartoum as Sudan's devastating war continues to escalate. A busy market in army-controlled Omdurman was hit by RSF shelling, killing 54 people and injuring 158 others, overwhelming Al-Now Hospital, according to medical sources and the Sudan Health Ministry. The ISF has denied responsibility for the attack, while Doctors Without Borders described the scene at the hospital as utter carnage. The Sudanese Army and Rapid Support Forces have been locked in a power struggle since April 2023, with the conflict intensifying as the army fights to reclaim control of the capital. President Donald Trump says he ordered airstrikes on ISIS and affiliated targets in Somalia on Saturday. While the U.S. military has routinely struck targets in the East African nation in recent years, Saturday's strikes would be among the first Trump has ordered during his second term in office. In the statement, Trump said these killers, who were found hiding in caves, threatened the United States and its allies. The strikes destroyed the caves they live in and killed many terrorists without harming civilians. Past targets of U.S. strikes in Somalia include fighters from ISIS and the group Al-Shabaab, which is associated with Al-Qaeda. Rwanda has welcomed calls for a joint regional summit to address the escalating conflict in DRC. Now, this comes as the M23 rebel group, which the UN and several nations accuse Rwanda of backing, has seized control of Goma and vowed to march on the capital, Kinshasa. The latest escalation has intensified regional concerns, prompting emergency summits among African leaders. On Friday, the 16-nation Southern African Development Community, SADC, proposed a summit with the East African Community to deliberate on the security crisis in DRC. In response, Rwanda's foreign ministry expressed support for the initiative, stating that it has consistently advocated for a political solution to the ongoing conflict. And to unpack this, we're joined by Zama and Shona, the national spokesperson of the African Transformation Movement. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me on the news.
Yes.
All right. What's your reaction to the crisis in the DRC and, of course, involvement of the South African National Defense Force?
Thank you so much. I think for a moment we need to backtrack. Yes, truly, when you're looking at what actually transpired when the South African Defense Force found itself ill-prepared for what it termed a peace mission in the middle of a war, that one is a matter of concern that must be looked into. But we need to backtrack a little. If you listen to former President of South Africa, President Mbeki, speaking about the matter, and actually going back to 1994 and before, but specifically 1994, when there was an opportunity to recognize the Tutsis as Congolese. And that missed opportunity has actually given us or yielded this particular confrontation. And it is very astonishing, if I may say, why is it that the South African government, after taking Palestine or Israel to the international court for what Israel is doing to Palestinian people, Why would the South African government, in this case, even though history is revealing, especially from the statements of the former statesman, and he's not the only one, that the people who are Rwandan speaking but Congolese by demarcation actually must be given their rights to vote, they must be given their rights of recognition, they must be integrated into the Congolese nation, or should we say government. Why is it that similarly to what actually transpired in Palestine, Israel, that the South African government has not actually positioned itself in a manner that speaks for the minority? So now many questions are now arising on the actual reason why the South African government is actually in Congo. Why is the South African government? Well, it is ill-prepared and also for a cause that is yet to be clarified. Why? And why the side that they have chosen?
While you raise these questions as to why the South African government is in Congo, do you think, the South African Defense Force, for instance, has contributed to regional peace or stability in the DRC?
When the actual reasons for occupation are questionable, the outcomes are going to be questionable as well. Because if people are beginning now to ask questions, were you not the same people who were saying that the Palestinian people are suppressed in an apartheid-like government of Israel? Why would you say that we support the non-recognition of the Tutsis? So if your reason for occupation is questionable, how are you going to realize the ideals of peacemaking? Are you then saying in South Africa, these Rwandan-speaking Congolese must not be recognized, must not be given rights, and all the peace accords and treaties that have been signed must not be fulfilled? Is that what you are saying? Is that what you are condoning? Now, these are pivotal questions which we believe that the South African government needs to look into intricately and actually answer these questions, because right now, the South African government seems not consistent in its stand against the victimization of the minority groups.
Having said that, how do you think the South African National Defense Force can ensure a very smooth peacekeeping mission in the region?
Currently speaking, I do not see how we will get to that. Because if you are going to choose which side you belong to on the basis of who you are dealing with, you are not going to be able to be effective. You can't be effective. In fact, you are going to be an individual who is not trusted. So now it calls into question not just only the occupation of South Africa there, but the occupation of the UN there. Because seemingly the history that South Africa relies on and the UN relies on is the 1994 issue. Now, the issue of the 1994 conflict of Rwanda, which saw Tutsis moving towards the border, seems to be the issue here. But they're forgetting about the Berlin Conference. And the Berlin Conference, when it was demarcating, it went right in the middle of a place where the Tutsis were actually occupying, split it in half. The others belonged to the DRC, whilst the others belong to Rwanda. So who are they by nationality? Are they Rwandans or are they Congolese? So it seems that we need to have a serious conversation about what is happening in that region. And we need to have a serious conversation about our advocacy for minority groups. We need to have a serious conversation around the issue of whose side we should be supporting.
Talking about sides to support, Rwanda has welcomed calls for a joint regional summit to address the escalating conflict in the DRC. How do you foresee this playing out?
It's going to be a tricky one. What makes it a tricky one is that you have undeniably people who are being displaced. And you would hear from many commentators on the matter, they are saying, the people, the Tutsis are saying very easy, if you want us gone out of Congo, we are taking our land with, because this is the land of our forefathers. The graves of our forefathers is here. Are you going then in that summit, going to deal with the issue of the redrawing of the borders? Are you going to bring back the border so that it does not include the northeastern part of Congo in Congo, and it includes that part in Rwanda? These are the pivotal questions which need to be addressed. And also that summit needs to address, why is it that the many peace agreements that were supposed to be implemented from the Congolese side were not actually implemented? Why is it that there is a need of a barrel of a gun to ask for recognition when the country could have just used the easiest way out? There were peace agreements, there were peace accords. Both sides had agreed to a ceasefire. Why is it that the Congolese government did not implement those? These are pivotal questions before we only look. So where I am sitting right now, the summit needs to be impartial, needs to be objective, needs to look at both sides. Yes, casualties have been suffered, or both sides. People have died, including South African troops. But we need to be objective here. If we say the Congolese government, if we say that the M23, the Tutsis, are actually wrong for wanting recognition, and we need to ask ourselves, are the forces within the Congolese space right for wanting them out of the space? These are pivotal questions. So the summit must actually go there. If the summit addresses those pivotal questions, then maybe we can get to a point where we could say there is an intervention that is going to have a meaningful and a lasting solution. But as we stand here and now, the biggest problem right now is that if you only use military means to actually deal with the problem, you are not going to be able to do it. We need to go back to the table, and we are hoping that when we go back to the table, the summit will then answer those pivotal questions. And I believe that if those pivotal questions are answered, we may be able to see lasting peace. If those agreements are actually implemented, we may see lasting peace.
Indeed.
But as things stand,
yeah, Mr. Nshona, well, indeed, we hope answers are given to those pressing questions you raised. Thank you so much for your insight on the news. Zama Nshona, National Spokesperson of the African Transformation Movement. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being there. In response to U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement of new tariffs, China, Canada, and Mexico have pledged swift retaliation. Trump's move, which targets key imports, have sparked outrage among these nations, who argue that it could harm trade relations and disrupt global markets. China, already locked in a tense trade war with the U.S., warned of necessary countermeasures against the tariffs. Meanwhile, Canada and Mexico, U.S. neighbors and trade partners under the USMCA agreement, have also expressed concerns over the economic impacts on industries and jobs. With tensions escalating, experts anticipate a significant trade standoff unless diplomatic negotiations can bring a resolution.
Like the American tariffs, our response will also be far-reaching and include everyday items such as American beer, wine, and bourbon, fruits and fruit juices, including orange juice, along with vegetables, perfume, clothing, and shoes. It'll include major consumer products like household appliances, furniture, and sports equipment. and materials like lumber and plastics, along with much, much more. If President Trump wants to usher in a new golden age for the United States, the better path is to partner with Canada, not to punish us, unfortunately. The actions taken today by the White House split us apart instead of bringing us together. Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
In the world of sports, the 56th Molade Okoya Thomas Table Tennis Championship wrapped up on Saturday with Matthew Kuti and Bosse Odusoya claiming the men's and women's singles title. The organizers expressed satisfaction with the outcome of the event and also the fan turnout. According to them, the event's consistency over the years has kept fans engaged and excited. They also noted that these competitions will also shape the future of Nigerian table tennis.
We must commend the Nigerian Table Tennis Federation and the Lagos State Table Tennis Association. Just in the last 2 months, this is probably the 5th or 6th national tournament that has taken place in here. And the more tournaments and the more events any sports federation has, the higher the interest that is generated amongst the public. And that's why anytime any table tennis event is taking place here, you see the turnout, because there has been a consistency in programs by the state and by the National Federation. I was talking to the chairman of the National Sports Commission last week when he was here for the press conference, that I think the NTTF is probably the most active sports federation in Nigeria right now, because they keep on having tournaments, they keep on having events. Yes, I mean, we may have 1 or 2 things to do in terms of getting the best level, but the fact that they are actually organizing tournaments, number 1 is good for sponsors, number 2 is good for public awareness, number 3 is good for the players, because you now begin to have occasion for players to try and develop themselves and get better. It's a step in the right direction.
Nigeria's Christopher Bullos pulled off a remarkable comeback victory against South Africa's Chris Van Wyk in the World Group 2 playoffs. After teammate David Ekpeyong's straight set loss in the opening match, Bullos faced immense pressure but delivered when it mattered most. Despite being ranked significantly lower than his opponent, the Nigerian star fought back from a set down and saved the match point to secure a thrilling victory. The final set went to a tiebreak where Bullos prevailed at 7-4. And that's all on the news. Let's take a look again at some of the major stories. 30 persons killed in Ondo auto crash. Serap gives Tinubu 7-day deadline to address allegations. Rwanda welcomes calls for regional summits to end DRC conflict. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adibola Adiduba.